What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the top things that you need to know when it comes to hiring somebody for your restoration business. Guys, I can tell you this, over the past decade, I have hired and fired a ton of people, and that's not something to be proud of, but I'm telling you, I've learned a lot along the way. What are some of the key questions that we asked? What are some of the things or some of the biggest mistakes that we made when we were hiring people? How did we go about getting answers to questions that were technically illegal to ask? That's right. There's things that you can do where you can get some of this important information without asking certain questions. Here's the deal. If you own a restoration company and you're going to be hiring some people, you do not want to miss this video. Let's go. All right, guys, as we get started, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button and drop a comment down below and let me know, where are you tuning in from? All right, guys, so one of the big mistakes that I've seen people make, and I even made myself, was I hired people too quickly. Now listen, I know you want to get the position filled. I know that you're shorthanded. I know that if they leave, you're in the field, and being in the field sucks. I know that your crew is getting overworked until you get this thing filled. I get all that. But that being said, two wrongs don't make a right. The only thing that sucks worse than having to fill a position is having to fill that same position twice in a short period of time. Just because you're shorthanded does not mean that this is the right guy for the job. I mean, you don't marry the first girl that you go out with after a divorce, do you? And if you do, please don't answer that question. But I mean, just because you went through a bad experience or just because that guy sucked, that doesn't mean this one's the right one. I'm just telling you, take your time. You're going to be tempted to hire somebody quickly to fill the position. Just don't do what I did. Don't do that. Okay. I know you're going to be tempted to rehire somebody quickly, especially if they look good on paper, but just don't rush the process. Okay. So here's another mistake that I see people make. They start off by looking at the resume. Do not look at someone's resume as soon as they go apply. You need to put stuff in between that resume and the time that you're going to be speaking to them. When you look at the resume, here's what's going to happen. You're going to like what you see. It's going to sound good. Oh, he's got certifications. Oh, he's got experience. Oh, this guy's going to be perfect. Oh, he's just moved to the area. This is the right one. And you don't know that for a fact yet. I'm telling you, here's what's going to happen. You're going to call that guy and you're one good conversation away from making a premature hire. The guy has not been proven just yet. You need to vet the person, okay? Just because they look good on paper does not mean they're going to be a good fit for your business. So here's the deal. Don't even tempt yourself. Do not look at the resume. Instead, you need to put some intentional hurdles in between you and that conversation. At our company, for a long time, that's exactly what I did. But then eventually what we wound up doing is we had a process created and they would apply, okay? And I would have them go do a series of things before I ever even saw the resume because I did not want to see it. It's like, whenever you go buy the candy or you go buy the cookies and you put them in the house, I'm going to go eat them, okay? So don't put them in the house, okay? Don't put that resume in your inbox. Let somebody else take care of that thing, all right? Make that person jump through some hoops. Make sure that they are willing to do what they need to do. Will they show up for an interview on time, etc.? Do they look good? There's a lot of things in the background perspective they need to go through. If you go look at that resume right off the bat, you're going to start dreaming and wondering that this is Superman. Clark Kent is about to show up for your business. And the reality is that ain't going to be him, okay? And just don't look at the resume. Put some necessary hurdles in place, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the list. But do not look at that resume, and whatever you do, don't call them as soon as you see their application. All right, so here's what you should do instead of looking at the resume. Whenever somebody wants to apply for your business, have them actually come into your business and physically fill out an application and then throw the application in the trash, okay? Like literally, we would make them come in multiple times. Sometimes we would throw the thing away and make them come back and tell them that we lost it. Why am I doing that? Because I want to make sure that they're willing to show up once. I want to make sure that they're willing to show up on time. I'm wanting to see, will they come back twice, okay? Yes, in this day of technology, yes, you can do a Zoom call. You can do a FaceTime call. Do not do that. Get that dude to come into your office, okay? If he ain't got a car, he's less likely to walk to your office, all right? He's going to have to get transportation. Make him come a couple of times, all right? Or conversely, like if you just do the Zoom call, here's what's going to happen. They're not having to jump through any hoops. All they got to do is throw their phone up and they go from there, okay? So we would literally set up multiple interviews and we wanted to see just that. Were they willing to show up? Were they going to be there on time? What did they dress like? What was their demeanor? What did they look like? We would take pictures of them, okay? Do they have eyeball tattoos? Like, what do they look like? What do they smell like? Are they clean? These are things that I want to smell them. You know what I'm saying? I want them in my office, but not in my office. I want them in the front desk, and I want someone at the front desk doing all this before I ever look at anything about their resume. Make them jump through some hoops. That's my advice. All right, so the next thing that's really, really important is you need to understand their work history. Notice I called it a work history and not a resume. Whenever you're putting this together, just tell them you want to know work history rather than a resume. To be quite honest with you, I don't even know if I would be able to put together a resume, but just work history seems a little more simple. Whenever you're putting an application together or you're putting together the ad, just tell them, hey, give me a bullet point of where did you work, how long were you there, what did you do, etc., and make them do that for the various things. Make it easy for them to be able to submit the application just so you can get the information. You don't want them to fabricate things, okay? Just know this. Work history is better than a resume. All right, guys, so when it goes to looking at someone's work history, we want to make sure that we're at least looking 7 years back, okay? Now, once you're looking 7 years back, you're looking for gaps in employment. Are there any gaps in employment? If so, there's a story. We want to double click into that and ask them what's going on. How many jobs have they had? How long have they stayed at those jobs? Why did they leave those jobs? These are things that we want to understand when we're looking at somebody's work history. All right, so now let's go back to gaps in employment, because this is a really big one, okay? If you're looking at somebody's work history and there's like a year that they're off or 2 years, like that seems a little fishy, right? We want to double click into that. We want to find out what's going on there, okay? When you're asking them about gaps in the employment, we're looking for stuff like, were they on workers' comp? Okay, did they have a workman's comp claim? And you can't ask them, have they ever been on workman's comp? But you're just looking at, so why weren't you working here? Asking these questions may reveal some stuff, okay? Maybe they were riding unemployment. Maybe they were riding workman's comp, okay? I don't know. Maybe they were in jail. Maybe they were in rehab. All of these things may come to the surface when you ask them about gaps or inconsistencies in their workman's comp, okay? Side note, I'm having a Shane ADD moment right now. Another thing, if you're hiring a water damage restoration technician, if they're over 40 years old, they are not who you're looking for as a technician. Okay, I'm 47. I am not going to be your donkey. Okay, you really are looking. It's a young man's game. All right. For me, I like 20 to 30 years old. Those are the ones that you're looking for. Okay, you definitely want to make sure that you've got enough tread left on the tire. But I'm just telling you, there's a few things, and I got nothing against fat people. I'm overweight myself, but if they can't fit in a crawl space, they can't get in a crawl space. All right, and we're gonna need these dudes to get in a crawl space. They might have to get into an attic. All right. You don't want someone too overweight getting out into the field. I don't mean you can't hire them, okay? But I'm saying in the field technician, these dudes need to be fit and they need to be able to go down there, okay? They need to not be scared of spiders too, right? Because we're gonna be working with heavy stuff in nasty places. But for real, don't hire somebody too old. And like, for instance, all I'm saying, if their work history goes back to 1980 something, sorry, okay? Like, pray for them, don't hire them. Okay, so now we're getting to the juicy part, okay? Here's how you can get answers to questions that are technically illegal to ask, okay? So first off, it's my understanding anyway, and listen, I'm not an HR expert. Most of the stuff I do is probably not right or legal, but I speed too, so like, cast stones at me. But I'm pretty sure you can't ask somebody, hey, have you been arrested? Now you can ask them if they've been convicted of like a misdemeanor or a felony, but like, okay, so if they were not convicted of a felony, but they were charged with one, would you want to know? Probably so. And so, because there's probably a story there. So here's some of the ways that I would go about that. So I would come to somebody, and rather than saying, have you ever been arrested? Can't do that. You might be able to say, all right, so as part of our job, we're going to be working inside of secured facilities at times. We're going to have to do a criminal background check. Okay, so have you ever had one of those done? Great. Is there anything that's going to show up on there that may be an issue that we need to talk about now? Okay. And it doesn't really matter. Just because you've been arrested doesn't mean that it's going to preclude you from getting the job. But I'm just asking you now, is we've got to do the background checks. They're criminal background checks. Is there anything on there that we should talk about first? And that's a really good way to put it, because at that moment, you're giving them a chance to kind of explain themselves, and they're thinking like, well, there was that time that I had that weed, you know, like, I'm just saying, whatever. All right, cool. Is weed still a problem? Like, now we can ask them stuff like that. Okay. But that's a good way to do it. Just tell them you got a criminal background check coming up. Is there anything that's going to show up on that might be an issue that I need to know about? Okay. So here's another question. I'm pretty sure you can't ask them, how many tickets have you had? Or are you a bad driver? Right. So instead, what we might say is something like this. Hey, you'll have to get put onto our company insurance. Okay. And they're going to have to do some background checks for your driving record, etc. Is there anything on your driving record that may be an issue that would prohibit you from driving one of our company vehicles? Have you ever had any problems with your driving record that may show up whenever we run that check? And from there, then that might be like, well, I got 13 tickets, or I did get in trouble for evading the police. These are good ways to get that to come out right now. You ask them the right question, they will tell on themselves. All right, guys, so here's another really good question that you can't ask that you want to know, which is this. Is your spouse crazy? Are they addicted to drugs or alcohol? These are things that might be worth knowing. And I'm pretty sure you can't ask that. So here's one way that you might be able to get around that instead. So you could, number one, ask them, do they have wife, kids, etc. That's one way. But if they do, regardless, we want to meet them, okay? And how are we going to do that? Take them to lunch, take them to dinner, take that extra $100 that you might spend on whatever, go take them to a company dinner, go take them to a company lunch, have them bring their better half, their significant other, whatever it is that they got, and go meet them. Because I got news for you. If they're married to crazy, you're hiring crazy. And if they're married to a drug addict, okay, then you're hiring a drug addict. And I'm telling you, you will be able to flush this stuff out in a 1-hour dinner or a 1-hour lunch. Do yourself a favor, take them to lunch. Don't hire anybody that's married to a crazy addict. All right, another thing that we want to break down on their work history is how many jobs have they had, okay? And now I'm not necessarily concerned about how many jobs they've had, but it does matter more about like, how long were they there? You know, why did they leave? What's going on? Are these people quitters? Do they quit over and over again? Do they get fired over and over again? When you find this information out and you ask them these questions, they're going to be likely to start telling you some story or some narrative. But I'm just telling you this, how many jobs they have matters less to me. How long they were there and why they left, that does matter much, much more. That leads me into this next point. So when it comes to hiring, you want to know why did they leave, right? So was it because the company shut down? Was it because they relocated and they're in a new area? Like these, if the company shuts down, they're relocating, those are pretty good things. If they got fired, that's probably not, that's not a good thing, right? But even if they did get fired, we want to know what happened. And granted, you're only going to get one side of the story, but you need to get it, okay? Did they get fired? Did they not? Okay. So you need to find out, why did they leave that company? How much money were they making? Did they leave the company for money? If so, was it just one company, 2 companies, 3 companies? The more information you get here, patterns may start to emerge about the person that is standing in front of you, okay? And that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for questions and answers, and we're looking for patterns. We're looking like, okay, does this match up? Does this match up? Are there any inconsistencies that we see? Just talk to the person and have a good conversation, okay? And we'll get into the some of the other questions I might ask a little bit later, but you want to be looking for conflicting information. Is there something that doesn't add up? Do you smell a rat? Does it look fishy? If so, this may not be the one for you. All right, so here's one really good question that I would ask. Anytime someone's had like more than 3 jobs, which most everybody has, when I'm going back, I'm like, okay, so I see you were here from here to here, right? And you were here, there to there. So this first company, Acme Restoration, how long were you there? Cool. So, and what made you leave? All right. And then you picked this other company. How did you get over there? Like, look to see, did they quit? Did they get fired? Why did they leave? What were the circumstances? Okay. Was it for money? Was it for money on the second job to the third job? Does this person hop job to job to job for $1? Okay. $40 a week. That's all. When you get paid $1 more an hour, it's $40. Okay. That's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of loyalty in that. Okay. You want to find out, why were they leaving these companies? And here's one really good question. What would have made you stay? So I noticed you were here and then you went there. And you left because of this reason. Just curious, what would have kept you there? If they would have matched the dollar amount, would you have stayed too? These are important things to ask. I think you might get some good information out of this. Why did you leave? What would have made you stay? Now, another thing is when you ask them what would have made you stay, number one, you might also find out like, if it was for money or why they left, but more than anything, whatever they say as an answer to that question, what would have made you stay? These also could be things for you as a clue on what you might need to do to keep them longer. In other words, this might be some insight into their love languages. Yeah, and humans, okay, we're touchy-feely creatures. We're emotional little beasts, and yeah, they're going to have a love language too, whether it be appreciation, acts of service, or just money. You're going to want to find out what actually turns that person on, what motivates them, and what makes them happy, feel warm and fuzzy, and you're going to have to tickle that little area on that person, because if they want more money and you just try to speak kindly to them, it ain't going to work. If they want to feel appreciated, throwing money ain't going to work. Okay, you need to find out what it takes to make that person tick. Dig down in and make sure that you do that for that person. And answering this question might give you insight into whatever that love language is. All right, so now we're just moving to a handful of just like good one-off questions that I think would be good for you to ask. One question would be this. Okay, so when you're at this company or that company, and this only works for like, You can't do this for every company, but you can say, hey, what one thing do you think you could have done a little bit better at that company? Or you might say, hey, if there's one thing that you think you need to improve on, okay, as a team member or as an employee, what would that be? And don't ask them to give you 4 or 5. I mean, just give them one. Say, hey, if there was one thing, what one thing would you say that you need to improve on to take, your employment to the next level, right? Like, and this is really good. Before you ask them what are your strengths? Okay, I'm thinking of this as I'm saying it. Give me 1 or 2 of your strengths. Okay, great, awesome. Tell me more about it. Let them pat themselves on the back and then say, okay, and what's maybe 1 or 2 weaknesses? And because you're gonna be much more likely, I've heard of this called as like the IBM cycle or whatever. Maybe it's military. It's called the build, break, build. You want to build them up, break them down, build them up. Okay. I think I was told IBM management, but it sounds more military to me, right? Like boot camp. But you want to build them up, make them feel good, and you break them down and build them back up. You got to always build them back up when you let them go out the door, or you're going to send a wounded animal out in the wild, okay? But if you want to get some honest feedback from them, build them up, break them down, build them back up, move on to the next one. Okay, James, so I see that you've listed 3 companies here. Curious, Acme Restoration. If I were to speak to your supervisor right now, what would they say about you? How would they describe you? If there was one thing they said you were good at, what would it be? If they said there was one thing that you could have gotten better at, what would it be? These are other good things. And granted, you're not gonna be able to say this about all of them, okay? But I would encourage you to think about what's one way to get information like this for Acme Restoration, Billy Bob Restoration, and whatever the other company was, okay? You wanna figure out those angles and have those written out. Be prepared, don't just wing it. Have your questions and get your segues ready. Now, that being said, once I've got someone in front of me, dude, I'm just going to speak to them like a human. I'm definitely going to go through my notes and make sure that I'm covering these bases. But more than anything, guys, I want to find out what's in between their ears, what makes them tick. This kind of leads me to one thing I like to know. So, what do you do for fun, James? What are your hobbies? And because I'm taking those things and I'm writing them down. I'm always making notes and I'm kind of comparing it to this other stuff, okay? More than anything else, if these dudes are just weirdos, you don't want them on the team, okay? They need to be normal people that you can talk to and be aware of that. It doesn't matter if you like them. If they don't fit in culturally with everybody else in your business, that's a really big problem, okay? So think about that as well. Don't just hire a teacher's pet. Make sure that they're gonna blend in with everybody else in your business. So here's a couple good ones. Where did you grow up? What do you do when you're off? Where are your hobbies? These are good conversation starters. I like where did you grow up, because if we're in Nashville, which is where I was running my company, and they were from like Seattle, Washington, oh, cool. So Seattle, how long you been in Nashville? These are questions you wouldn't always ask, okay, because you don't know where they're from. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Right? And stuff like that. And then you're going to start to see some gaps in there, right? If they've been to Seattle and New York and now over here, was their dad in the military? Were they on the run? What's going on, right? Seriously, these are good conversation starters. Ask them questions, talk to them like a human. If something doesn't make sense, poke a little harder, okay? What brought you to town? That's a really good one. In Nashville, we already knew he's going to be a singer or a songwriter or trying to be a producer. What was it? And yes, side note, pretty much everybody that's in Nashville moved to Nashville to be in music. That's a fact. I'm just telling you. Okay. And the weird thing they always say about Nashville is only in Nashville does the waiter have a higher degree, a college degree or a master's degree, but they have foregone everything else to try and be a songwriter. So while they throw a $90,000 a year salary away to make peanuts writing songs, I don't know, man, but I'm just telling you it happens. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, get to know the person, find out what brought them to town, and just have conversations with them. Oh, and one other thing you need to ask them, ask good questions. One of the things I would say, it's real simple. Do you have a valid driver's license? That is a better question than do you have transportation? Because if they have transportation and they can't drive, that doesn't really matter. But if they can drive and they have transportation, that sounds a lot better. Even if they don't have a car, if they have a driver's license and they can get to work, then they can drive my car. Does that make sense? So rather than saying, do you have reliable transportation? Do you have a valid driver's license? Cool. And then, dig deeper, make sure you go into the whole, we got to do the check on the background stuff for the driver's license or any problems in there. Make sure you're covering all that too. But so driver's license is going to be important. And do you have reliable transportation? All right. So now I'm going to give you a pro tip. So if you're running a business, okay, you need to make sure these guys can legally drive. And I'm not going to be racist here because I'm not going to say where these people would be from, okay? But there are going to be people that are not from the United States of America, okay? And they could be from anywhere, from Polak, Poland, anywhere. I don't know and I don't care. But I'm telling you, one of the big issues is if they are not a legal resident, okay, or they not a legal citizen, they probably don't have a valid driver's license. If they don't have a valid driver's license, they can't drive your vehicle. And let me say this differently. If they can't drive your vehicle, you don't really need this dude, okay? Now, if they drive their car all the time and they ain't got a valid driver's license, you do not want that dude in your car. You do not want him in your truck. Do you understand? You do not want him driving his vehicle without a license and meeting you on the job. This is just called professionalism 101, okay? But I'm saying this to you because some of these are mistakes that I've made before, okay? I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what country you're from, but do you have a valid driver's license is very, very important, okay? And can you legally drive my vehicle? That is also very important, right? And if they can't legally drive your vehicle because they don't have a driver's license, they can't just be meeting you on site of a job either, okay? You understand me? I don't want you to think like you're pulling the charade over somebody. I'm just telling you, you can get your butt in a really deep crack if you're not careful. I don't care if they're from America or not. Go get an American, okay? Go get a gringo. Go get a white dude. Go get a black dude. I don't care what color they are. If they are born in Georgia and they don't have a driver's license and they run over somebody in your company truck, you are screwed. Do you understand? Okay. Now, if they don't have a driver's license and they're an illegal alien, you might be more screwed, okay? Because then politics is going to get involved. But I'm telling you, I've seen this happen. I used to work with a guy, Frank, and Frank actually had somebody, so he worked in the landscaping industry, and Frank had a guy driving the company truck, and he actually, this is back in 2004, and this guy, somebody in their company truck, okay, it's during the Iraq War, or right around the time of the Iraq War, he ran a red light, ran over a dude and hit him on a motorcycle. Killed the dude on the motorcycle. The motorcycle driver was not just a normal guy. It was a Purple Heart wounded decorated veteran, okay? So dude's just driving his motorcycle, sitting at a red light. Dude gets run over. He's killed, okay? He's a Purple Heart, and the story still gets worse. Why? Because the guy that hit him did not have a driver's license. Oh, wait, there's more. Oh, wait, there's more. He was also an illegal alien in the United States. You don't want these things to happen to you. Do you understand? I don't care where they're from. And this company was a big company, okay? This company made over $10 million a year, might have done $20 million a year. This was a really big problem, okay? And listen, the fact that somebody got killed is already a tragedy, but you don't want to get caught up in politics. Do not let somebody drive your vehicle if they don't have a driver's license. Are we clear? Don't mess with that at all. And don't tell them to meet you at the job, because if they run over somebody going to that job, you are still liable. You are still liable, okay? They're still going to sue you. Just telling you. All right, so now we're going to come down to our Chanisms as we wrap this up. So number one, don't hire job hoppers. If they hop in job to job to job, let them hop to another job. Do not hire them under any circumstances ever. Do not hire a job hopper, period. Number two, we just said it. Make sure they have a valid driver's license. Some do, some don't. This one better have a valid driver's license, okay? Even a junior helper, if they can't drive your vehicle, I ain't hiring somebody without a driver's license. I am not hiring somebody that ain't got a driver's license, period. Did y'all hear me? They ain't got a driver's license, don't hire them. Don't hire somebody that leaves job to job to job looking for money. Because they may have stayed there for a long time, but I'm saying if they always leave for money, guess what they're going to leave you for? Some money. Now, here's another Chanism, all right? I'm all for second chances, but not necessarily in my company. And all second chances ain't the same, okay? So let me tell you one thing. If that person, if they got a DUI, that's one thing. But a thief, dog, is a thief, all right? And do not hire a thief. I don't know, maybe I'm judgmental, but I'm telling you, I've been burned too many times, okay? And I got family members that are thieves, and a thief is a thief. What do they say about dogs that kill chickens? Once that dog tastes a chicken's blood, he'll never stop. I lived on a farm in Franklin, Tennessee, and we had these dogs that we would have, and once one of them started eating chickens, dude, once a chicken killer, always a chicken killer. Once a thief, always a thief. Pray for them, do not hire them. Last ones. If they're married to crazy, you're hiring crazy. If they're married to an addict, you're hiring an addict. Pray for them, don't hire them. All right, guys, so hopefully that is helpful. We've gotten pretty long in this video. If you got some other topics, put it down in the comments down below, okay? Other than that, we'll see you in the next video. If you guys enjoyed that video, I've got 3 things for you. First off, there's a couple of other videos somewhere on the screen. You can click those now to go watch more content about growing your restoration company. Number 2, if you haven't already subscribed, click my face below and that will subscribe you to the channel. And finally, if you would like for me to help you grow your restoration company, go to workwithshane.com, put in your information, and let's get on a 15-minute call. We'll see you then.